TechnicalLessons.com. We're going to do an opening today. So this opening is more complex than a lot of the ones I've been going over, which is why I put it in the single-digit cue category. Mainly because a lot of the variations are very, very difficult and require higher level reading to really make sense of them. So if you're 10Q or below, by all means, watch the video. You can really get a lot from it, but some of this stuff is going to really rely on you having a much more involved, deeper sense of reading, all right? So in this opening, it's going to look familiar, but there's going to be parts that are going to be very different. So, all right, so 3/4 point, 3/4 point, okay, and then black will approach. White plays under, and then black comes up like this. So if you've looked at some of the standard sequence videos, you've probably seen this move before. And it's very, very complicated. I'm not going to go too into it. We're just going to do this simple variation for this part. So white blocks, black hanes, white extends. All right, white extends. This is a very important move. And now the easy move for black is simply to Atari and have white connect. Okay. So of course you could play the large avalanche, the Nagare Joseki, which is like this. But that is it's not just another lecture, it's another book. All right, the Avalanche Joseki is really, really, really complicated. We're not going to go into that. So we're going to do the simple one. All right, where basically all that black does is black Ataris, white connects. Very simple. Now, instead of playing up here, we're going to play this move. All right, and so this is the opening that we're going to cover today. All right, we're not going to look at every single variation, but we're going to get the gist of this opening and really use our reading muscle to try to gain the advantage. So what's the idea here? Well, it looks like the mini Chinese. The big difference, however, is that normally in the mini Chinese, the other side isn't developed yet. All right. In a normal mini Chinese, the side opposite the 3/4 point is not this developed. This is really, really developed. So in this case, what we've done is we have this group of 4 stones, and yes, white has made lots of territory here. Right? White is solid, white's live, white has territory. And black shape has 2 cutting points, it looks like confetti. All right, but what black has done is he's basically say, okay, I have this area and I have this area, so this area is going to be light. I'm going to try to either sacrifice or use these stones to my advantage. If white tries to attack me directly, I have some way of handling it in order to make a large territorial framework. All right. So just like the mini Chinese, it's not really a good idea for white to just invade outright like this. Although there are games where white was able to pull this off, and usually black wins. But there's some games where white won as well. So again, in Go, nothing is really ironclad. Very rarely do I say a move is totally bad. All right, like for instance, if you played this, then I would say, yeah, it's kind of a bad move right in the corner. But in every circumstance, it really depends on your strategy. Typically, though, this is not a good move. The reason being is because black plays like this, and now we start a fight in black's territory. Remember, this stone's already pincering us, so we're playing the move that's already being pincered. White plays here. Black, of course, hanes. White pulls back. Now, the very important move is for black to descend. Okay, you saw this sequence in the mini Chinese or the Kobayashi lectures, so I won't go too much into it here. But the basic idea is you need to descend here to erase these points here. All right, and then white makes a small group here, but this group is not really so much alive. All right, so what black will do is black will do things that will try to pressure this group, like surround it from the outside. So already we have a weak group on the board. We don't want that so early in the game. We won't have time to make use of these weak points if we're defending a group on the other side. There's all sorts of things white can do. It depends on your own personal playing style. And for peaceful players, I recommend moves like this. Okay, very peaceful. Okay, here or here. Split up this area. We don't want black to get this side because then he has a framework, a territorial framework that goes along the top and along the sides. We don't want him to get both. He has the investment for the top. He put a lot of stones in the top. So if he gets the top, as far as controller, that's fine. We don't want him to have the top and the side because that basically lowers our options later. So what we can do is we can play something like this. Okay, very peaceful. If you are a territorial framework, slow, methodical, grab the big point before your opponent does, keep an eye on the whole board, this move will work for you. Okay, black makes corner enclosure, very simple. White defends. Now it's very important, remember we're trying to make this upper side as big as possible. We're trying to come down. We're not necessarily rushing to defend this point just yet, alright? We basically left that weakness open from the very beginning of the game, so we're not rushing really fast to try to plug that up. So, black will play something like this. We're trying to make this corner in this area as big as possible. White can play something like this. Okay, again, peaceful, calm, methodical. And then black will finally plug up this hole. Now the top side is looking pretty big. Then white can play something like this. All right, and now it's pretty clear about how this the board is looking right now. All right, so black has made the top. White has not made any weak groups. Has not started any sort of fight yet. All right, he's slowly but surely going to try to inch out black in terms of points, which is great. In some games, I saw a game where black played this. It's a very interesting move. All right, black is trying to increase this side as much as possible. It actually starts a very interesting fight. If white hanes, black is going to cross cut. Now this stone is this stone and this stone. This stone is closer to its friend, so this stone is the relatively weaker stone in this fight. White will threaten to ladder this stone, in which case black says, "Fine, you're going to ladder the stone. That's great, but I want to play here. If you ladder this stone, I want to punch through here. If you just try to come out, I can still come out with a stone either here or here. So you're going to have to make a choice, white." White made the choice of laddering the stone. Ladder break over here is not that severe, so white didn't think that black would leave this area alone and play a ladder breaker over here. Besides, this Ponuki, this center capture is pretty big. So what black does is black pushes through. White captures. And then this is Sente, of course. We have to respond to this. We can't just leave that alone, or else black kills the entire side. Plays here. White plays here. We gotta keep pushing now. We gotta keep pushing through white's two groups. They cannot come out to meet each other. White extends, and then now black plays here. This is a very important move because this move helps build this entire top side, right? So what black has essentially done is black has punched through white. This group's alive now. That's perfectly 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, great, it's alive. All right, so it's got points. This group, what's it really doing? All right, what's it really doing? You could try to make a territorial framework this way. All right, this could be powerful for that. There's a cutting point here, so there's a possibility we can do that. But at the same time, black has made this is actually quite solid. White tried to come in here to leave a little bit of bad possibilities in the corner. But black's not going to let up. White later in Gote, white can play here and like that to live. But black has taken large swaths of territory already, and white has to figure out if he is able to turn this area into a territorial framework. All right, so this sorts of things happen in these types of games. That's why this movie was very interesting. It was basically to build the top. Black is putting a lot of his faith in his ability to turn the top into territory. All right, well, let's look at some more variations. Well, I hope that gave you a little taste of the smorgasbord of complex situations we're going to go over when we go over this opening. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about what happens when white tries to attack this area, all right? Because that's when we really talk about this opening, that's what we're talking about, what we're really dealing with, right? Why doesn't white just basically try and kill off these stones? There's 2 cutting points here. They're absolutely weak. Well, here's the basic problem. If white directly uses some of these cutting points, all right, let's say white just cuts, let's say just directly cuts, blunt, just move on in. What happens? All right, think about it for a second. What happens if white just cuts here with no pomp or circumstance? Pause the video and think about it. All right, so what happens when white just directly cuts here? Well, it doesn't really do much because, again, these stones are light, which basically means that if black loses some of them, it's not really a big deal. Black's going to counter Atari. White extends, and then now see, black doesn't really necessarily care what happens to those 2 stones. Black can play like this, for instance, and make a lot of territory this way. Or black can even play like this, in which case we just Atari the 2 stones, white extends, and now black can play like this. That's perfect, all right? There's nothing wrong with that. We've made a very strong hold here. This is a little bit close. We'd like this to be over here a little bit. But at the same time, if you look at it, be very careful with moves like these, because a lot of times we think to ourselves, oh, wow, I've got all this territory here. Think about it for a second. Before we played any of these moves at all, before you even cut, you had this territory. That was already white's. There's nothing black can do. Black is not going to play a move like this, right? Like that's suicide. It doesn't make any sense. Black's not going to play a suicide move, all right? So that's your territory. The basic rule of the game is that the object of the game is to make as much territory as you can, to surround points on the board such that your opponent cannot invade them and live. Well, your opponent can't invade the area and live, so therefore it's your point. So when you capture these 2 stones, all you've gained are those 2 stones in the territory underneath, and that's it. So that's not a very big deal for white. Black will just conveniently let those stones die. So that means white's going to have to find some move to attack the whole group at once. All right? Don't let black just get rid of a cutting point. Don't just let black sacrifice stones and come out on top of the other side. All right? So for instance, there's all sorts of things white can do. White can wedge here. Okay, this is the wedge move. White can peep here, or white can play on the vital point of the shape like this. All of those are completely normal moves. We're going to go over each one of them. Okay, here's the wedge. All right, 2 cutting points. I'm taking away the second liberty away from this stone, so now you've got 2 weaknesses to defend simultaneously. Of course, we can't defend weaknesses simultaneously and go only get 1 stone. So what we're going to do is we're going to defend 1 weakness, the bottom one. Black plays this. White clearly Atari's. There's no reason not to. We have to cut. Black defends. White defends. Remember, these stones may be dead, but they still are taking away liberties from these 3 stones. So we need to make certain that we don't let that become a problem. Black hanes. White plays. Now here, do not play meekly like this, okay? You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points of liberties for these stones. So they're not in danger of being counter-targeted and captured. So you can go ahead and play a move like this, because remember, these stones are not dead yet. They're not off the board. They still have Aji. So, white will play this. Black can extend. White will defend. We want to make sure these 2 stones are dead. In which case, even though white's made this big wall, there's no reason you can't play along the side. Okay, you're going to probably play along the side to diminish this influence. So it looks like black got territory, white got a lot of influence. Don't get me wrong, but this is a pretty good amount of influence. And there's only a little bit of Aji of black playing like something like this. Oh, excuse me. Like this, although not really. Okay, so there's not really much Aji here. Hence this move right here. So this is one way for white to play. All right, so we're trying to attack the whole thing, and we're not going to be able to capture everything because black can always pivot. He can always play flexibly and allow one side to go down while the other side stays intact. All right, so that's what the wedge looks like. If we go back, we can peep. Okay? Now, if we peep, please don't play a really thick, not a thick move, a heavy move like this, because this move is actually going to make black into a clump. All right, it looks like we should play this move, right? Because we're connecting all of our stones, but actually what black ends up having is black is a very heavy shape. It makes more sense to try to just let those 2 stones go. Again, this seems to be the theme of this fighting in this area, is let the 2 stones go. If white cuts now, which is a very bad move, black will immediately Hane here. If you don't immediately with all your soul want to Hane right here, then you're not a Go player. This is like your hand should dart onto the board the second you see this opening, because these 2 stones not only have 2 liberties. Now white's at your mercy. White descends. This is Sente, right? White defends, and now black has got a really nice wall along the side. This is not really much. White plays here, you just tar him out this way. So now white's got some thickness, but at the same time you have pushed white out. So white doesn't want to cut you too soon, all right? So white's going to cut. We just want to cut too soon. And pretty much it's the same thing for a long time. White doesn't want to cut here. Why? Because if he cuts here, black will play here. All right, the same idea. So white has to continue. Black's not necessarily going to play here. It's really dangerous if he connects now and white plays here to cut him off from the rest of his stones. All right. This group is alive. If this group are weak, I'd say this is possible, but it's not possible because this group is alive. So you have one weak group on the outside and one weak group with a very narrow escape route. So as black, we don't want that. So we're not really looking to connect right now. All right, now white's thinking to himself, well, do I do it now? Probably now would be a good idea. All right, so white's going to cut, okay? In which case, black's going to take the opportunity to hane. Right, this hane is protected. It's protected by a ladder. White hanes. And always remember these defensive moves. They look slow, right? This looks slow, but you don't want to leave this cut open, okay? You don't really want to leave this cut open. Cut, Atari, extend, and then basically after that, Atari, out. You don't want that. So let's look at the cut. If you cut like this, basically what you're saying is I can, if you're Atari, then black extends, right? You can't go one more because then you die. So you have Atari this way, but look what happens. If you come out, you can't Atari me back this way because I'll capture the stone, so you have to push me out one more time. And these stones are still not dead, so you probably want to push one more time. If this side of the board, this right side, is really big, and they're cutting these two stones off as big, this is a disaster area for white. So that's why we don't allow this to happen. We don't allow that cutting point to linger there, because it could be a bad possibility for us. That's why, instead of allowing black the possibility of playing this, we play nice and strong, and now white's got a much stronger wall towards the outside. And yeah, black's got a lot of points, so black's not too terribly bad off himself. All right, so again, I said this was going to be a variation-heavy lecture, and I am aiming to fulfill my promise. So we looked at the wedge, and we looked at the peep. This is the easiest one for black to defend against. This is very simple. Black will just usually play like this. If white goes forward, all black has to really do is play like this, okay? And just jump. If white plays like this, then black will move forward, okay? And white will make a wall this way, and black will just defend. All right, this is a pretty simple way of handling this. All right, so we have to think to ourselves, given all of these, all of the variations we just saw, in some games we see white play this, right off the bat, okay? We see white play like this. What do you think he's trying to do here? Because earlier in the lecture I said this wasn't a very good move, because black will play like this, and then it looks like white will get a weak group sandwiched in between two of black's strong positions. What could white possibly be thinking with this move? Pause the video and think about it. Okay, the idea of this move is that we're going to play on both sides and isolate this middle stone and try to attack it. This happens in a lot of games. It's very, very complicated, and it proves one thing I always say in every lecture that you're probably tired of hearing me say. Go is not an exact science, all right? So at least as far as humans are concerned. A lot of different moves are bad one decade, and then they're like great the next decade, okay? So there's usually more than one way to skin a cat. There is always more than one way to play somewhere on the board. So when I say something's bad or good, try it out yourself. Come to your own conclusion about what's bad or what's good, and try to see if you can make a bad move a good move. So in this case, white plays this to attack the whole black group. Now we're trying to isolate this stone, all right? We're playing on this side, or we're playing on this side. Yeah, sure, this is a little bit of a loss for white, okay? Like black playing this move makes this side pretty strong. But that's not our main, this side is not our main goal. This side is. Black defends, okay? Black can defend like this. In which case, white will play like this. Black tries to split white up. And here's a very important move. White plays this move, okay? Which we don't want to play like this, right? Because then white Ataris connect, and then white basically plays this or this. That's terrible. So we don't want to let that happen. So black will play like this. White will play here. Black plays this, and now white's dream has come true, all right? He's got the middle stone split in between two of his positions. Now, granted, this stone isn't strong yet, okay? It's just a stone right now, but at the very least, he's putting some pressure, and he's going to break up Black's upper side by fighting, okay? That's the idea here. And Black has a number of things he can do. Black could jump out with his stone, in which case it's going to be a fight between these two groups. It's going to be a very, very rough fight, I can tell you that much. Or, if he doesn't like that, Black can play like this, which case White comes out, Black plays this, White will have to defend his group. This is also Sente. And then, of course, White will try to make life for his group. Black's group here is a very precarious spot because the way out is very narrow. So he's got to find a way out soon. Okay, so he jumps forward. White takes the opportunity to... White gets a second move over here because Black played elsewhere. In which case, White says, this group's alive, so I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm going to play something over here. Now, my group over here is pretty darn good. Black's not going to block. Okay, he's going to put pressure on this White group. White will defend. Black wants the maximum agi here. Black wants to be able to play here and then connect here. After White connects, if Black plays here, White cuts. Black plays here. Black has 1, 2, 3, 4 liberties versus White's 4 liberties. That could be very bad for White. Okay, so Black loses absolutely nothing by playing something like this. And then essentially we come to this point, and there's going to be a pretty big fight between this group and this group. Most likely Black will be able to play something like this to try to capture the White stones, all right? So this gets to be very, very complicated fighting. All right, well, I hope that was enjoyable. I hope you learned something. This is a very interesting opening. I want you to try it out in real life with real games with real people. Okay, that's how we get better at Go, is real life experience. Here's a little secret. I hate this opening. I never use it. I used it once and I lost horribly. I despise this opening because I despise having these stones over here because it makes me very, very uncomfortable. I don't like giving my opponent points from the very beginning of the game. It feels bad. But I did study this opening because I need to understand a lot of the strategies behind it. You can't just stick with what you know. You have to expand what you can do and Go. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the lecture, and I'll see you next time.